This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
No shortage of news today as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you live as always in downtown Las Vegas, and plenty of live action throughout the course of the day, including right now as conference tournament games are underway all over the country. We already have one result in pocket here. The Bonnies winning and covering against LaSalle today in the A10, 99-80, that result there. And do we have a final yet? No, not quite, in Maryland, Iowa, where we are in will they, won't they cover territory right now for the Hawkeyes, who were a 12.5-point favorite at close. 2-point game here with like 20-some seconds to go.
Yeah, let's roll through these really quickly. A couple of these games. First off, the obvious letdown spot that we probably should have played, Iowa State up 57-27 with 12.5 minutes or 13.5 minutes left to go in the second half. The Sun Devils win one for the Gipper on the final shot there for Hurley, and then maybe give up the rope. You mentioned it, less than 40 seconds left to go. Iowa up 74-62 over Maryland right now. In the ACC, a fun one, still within reach, NC State against Pitt. 88-81 with 3:57 left to go in the second. And I've got my eye on a back-and-forth game in the SEC. LSU with an and-one opportunity here, 64-62, 11:48 left to go. Kentucky leads in that matchup.
And Kentucky closed a 9.5-point favorite in that one. We're midway through the second half, so we'll see if they can start to pull away. Just laying 4.5 on the live line if you think that they can. Two games also tipping off here momentarily, if not already. We don't have them on our live screens right in front of us, but Prairie View A&M taking on Bethune-Cookman in the SWAC quarters. Prairie View bet up from 4.5 to 5.5-point favorites here. Big move on the total as well, down from 153 to 147.5. And then Loyola Chicago and Richmond in the A10 as well. Richmond a 4.5-point favorite, total 143.5. I don't know if you have anything in those games. I don't today.
No, not really. I would just point out here of the two, it's going to be interesting is Loyola Chicago and Richmond, only because they did recently face one another. Loyola Chicago, the hotter team coming in, as they had won 2 out of 3, despite the fact that they're a 4-14 team in A10 play. Richmond, though, has been pretty bad down the stretch, so we'll see if this really makes a difference in terms of the actual matchup they played with one another. Still very tight on the road, 69-66 loss for Richmond in that one.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We got a whole lot more college hoops coming your way, which is one of many items on deck for today's program. So let's set the table like we always do. Time for the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the rundown.
It's a Wednesday, so I know typically we do West Coast bias, but in honor of the Mountain West tournament tipping off today, how about a little Mountain West Coast bias? Excited to have a deep dive breakdown on that tournament with one of those games actually tipping off in about an hour as we get to talk through it all.
Yeah, a very popular wager as well, and it seems to be every single year there is a misconception that UNLV gets a home court advantage because it's played at the Thomas & Mack. They get the advantage of being in their own city, but it has not really transpired to a run at all from the Run Rebels. And yet we saw some spots down to about 45 to 1 to win the Mountain West. Some spots were as high as 80 to 1 for them to win it. So there has been some action on UNLV to get this thing done. I don't think that'll be the case, but I do think they're live today against Wyoming, so we'll talk about that.
We absolutely will, and obviously you have a wager in the tournament as well that has been set. We've got a 6-game card in the association that we will preview, and of course we gotta talk about what went down last night. Bam Adebayo did what now?
Yeah, compiler, a fraud. No way that you can look at that and think that this is it. No, but Bam was great up until the point where they were very much extending the game so he could get to the record. But you don't get there, and if you watch, there's actually a supercut of all the fouls were called on him. He was fouled a lot. It's fine. It was weird, unethical basketball at the end. He beats Kobe's record. Maybe he has the record. I don't know if anybody still believes that Wilt actually scored 100 in that game. But either way, good performance from Bam, and a win for the Miami Heat, who are rolling, we should note.
Yeah, 83 now. It was an easy win and cover against the tanking Wizards in that spot. But yes, I know everybody on Twitter is very upset about the ethics of the last few minutes there. I got to tell you, when all is said and done in 50 years, nobody's going to remember that. Everybody just remember that he's second on the list.
Although you're right.
They're just going to remember he's second on the list.
No, you know what? You're right, only because a lot of people don't remember how Kobe got his 81, and it was a very similar situation at the end of that game.
And so. Wilt. And then granted, I wasn't there for that, obviously. But
was anybody? Did it even happen?
That's the question.
That's alleged. We have no idea. We just have a picture of him holding up the piece of paper. Nobody? No footage? Nothing? I don't know. I don't want to open that can of worms, though.
Look at you. You're going to get people angry.
Talk about that, Princess Diana.
And we just started the day. Yeah. And while March is known for madness on the court, how about in the NFL? We've had a little max madness in the last 24 hours. Lots of stuff we're going to get into as this is officially the start of the new league year. We're just a couple hours away from that actual firm beginning at 4 o'clock Eastern. But The Ravens, this was the breakout news last night, back out of the trade for Max Crosby. They ultimately end up then signing Trey Hendrickson this morning. So they do make up for the move individually, but it's the how and the what of all of this going down that has people's ears perking up this morning and has a lot of controversy and tinfoil hats going. But I just want to say from my end here real quickly. So yesterday when this came down, I'm cleaning the shower in my bathroom, and my husband runs in there and goes, Ravens backed out of the trade for Crosby. And my husband, bless his heart, great human being, but he is very well known for getting got on Twitter to the point where he actually had to delete it because he was responding to so much fake news and information that he had to just get rid of it. And then lo and behold, a minute later, I get the notification on my phone. I'm like, oh crap, this is real. This really happened.
Yeah, it did. And got to say, so I want to give us credit really quickly. It was a very brief mention when we talked about it, but we did mention when the trade talks were going on for the Raiders, the knee. And we talked about that might water down the price for Crosby, and thus it didn't matter after, and eventually it did. This seems like some dirty pool by the Ravens. I will go to keep the theme going, conspiracy here. I think Baltimore wanted Trey Hendrickson, but they were worried they weren't going to get him. And so they trade for Crosby, knowing they can back out using the excuse of the physical in the knee, because we all knew that was there.
Yes.
And then the second they realized they could land Hendrickson, they go ahead and pull the carpet out and say, no. This doesn't really look right for us. We don't really want this. Let's take our first-round picks back. Oh, by the way, we got Hendrickson now, too. This was completely and utterly ridiculous. The Ravens, I think, to an extent, I don't know about what the punishment should be, but you can't let this be the standard moving forward. You cannot allow that to happen.
The unfortunate part of it, and I think this will be a really great conversation too. We're going to have Dr. David Chao on the program coming up in the next segment, so we can get his thoughts on how all this goes down as a former NFL team doctor himself. But the fact that these physicals are subjective, and just because one staff deems a physical as something that they don't want to deal with, or that he doesn't clear their physical, doesn't mean it won't clear it for another team. And he is a week off crutches, so it was pretty obvious that at this point he's not going to pass a physical. So anyways, we'll get into that conversation a little bit deeper with him. But the larger portion of this is this just buyer's remorse and cold feet, as you've alluded to? And Jason La Canfora, among others, have put that out there based on their conversations with current GMs in the league right now. Canfora putting this out on Twitter, just got off the phone with two GMs, neither one of them buying the Ravens failed physical narrative by a long shot. Good luck finding agents and teams to trust you in negotiations now.
Well, I don't believe that. I don't think it's going to be that extreme, because we've seen this kind of stuff happen before. But I will say, there's no way you're buying it. This is clearly what happened, and you're going to move forward from this. It's going to be pretty fascinating, I think, the Raiders aspect of it, obviously. You spent big in free agency. There was a reason, too. You and I hit this a lot, especially during Super Bowl week. Max Crosby did not, and I would assume still does not, want to play for the Raiders.
Yes.
There was relationships within that front office and with him that had frayed, and I think part of it is also he wants to play for a winning team. So you have to now come back into the building and at least work on his rehab. That was a report that he's back in the building working on that while this happens. I know a lot of people are focusing on the comments coming out of Las Vegas, which was, we're ready for Max to be on the roster and preparing for him as such. They said the same thing before they traded him as well. So I would expect that he's going to get dealt at some point. And then we have this other aspect of not only all the money they spend, Stormy, it's not about the cap space, because that'll hurt him next year. It's about how does he fit. You signed a ton of these linebackers to fit your new 3-4 scheme. And I saw a couple of accounts, I think it was DraftKings, one of them, tweeted out the starting defense. And they had Max Crosby plugged in at defensive end. He's not a 3-4 defensive end. And he's not a stand-up outside linebacker either. He doesn't really fit with what they want to do. So I don't think this is done. I would expect still that he's going to be gone. But that, to me, is going to be really interesting as we move forward, obviously.
Well, and now, unfortunately, because of the way that this all came down with the physical, from an outside perspective, the value is now significantly gone down, and the Raiders are no longer in a position of leverage. Well, I don't expect, considering how difficult it was for you to get what you wanted in the 2 first-round picks to begin with, you're definitely not going to get that now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, I don't know, I guess I would disagree a little bit in the sense of, I mean, you can now, if you're a team, just go, okay, yeah, we don't want to because the Ravens, I think you're right to an extent, but it's just all of these teams, which is why this makes no sense, knew about the knee.
Yes.
This was a known thing.
He's not going to truly pass a physical.
Right. So if I was outside of just saying, well, the Ravens did it, if I'm a team that was offering whatever I was offering, knowing what I knew, why would I balk at that other than just to screw the Raiders over, I guess, and try to get it? I think you're right to that extent, but we'll see. I think this whole thing messes all of it up, I think, for Las Vegas.
I think it's almost more of a public perception thing.
Like, you don't want to be the team that ships off 2 first-round picks after the other team. But
and now you look at some of the other teams that were more involved and like deeper in the weeds with Crosby trying to make deals with the Raiders. The Dallas Cowboys, for example, they didn't want to give up 2 1s, ended up working out a deal with the Packers for Rashawn Gary. So they could still add Max Crosby, sure. But now that you already have that piece, are you that much more inclined to go then give up an arm and a leg for this player? No, I don't think so.
All I know is that the Colts were going to get Trey Hendrickson just like I said they were, and that did not work out. And
then this happened, which, again, we'll just say this. Pending a physical, Trey Hendrickson officially signs the big long-term deal with the Ravens.
Injury or anything like that.
But, hey, considering, though, the pass rush issues that the Ravens had, they go from one stud to another and still at least show, because they told the whole world when they did this Max Crosby deal that they were going all in on this era of Lamar Jackson. So at least they got the guy they had to get, if not Max Crosby.
I will be selfish for a second. They do screw over multiple teams here.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Colts, like, think about the ripple effects. The Las Vegas Raiders and the Colts, all of them are all actually somewhat connected, because the Colts let Kwity Paye go, their former first-round pick, because I think the expectation was that they thought they were going to get Trey Hendrickson in free agency. And on the other side of it, as we talked about with Crosby, the Raiders went and got Kwity Paye to make up for the fact that Crosby was going to be gone. So now they have this logjam of what they're going to do here. The Colts are on the outside looking in with the defensive end that they desperately need, and the Ravens just get to sit back and go, oh, it's fine. We got Trey Hendrickson. We're good.
And I do know a lot of people were, like, freaking out on the Raiders side of things. Like, okay, they made all these moves, they spent all this money. Are they able to still do this with Max Crosby? The answer is still yes. Yeah. Like, financially, it still does work if they were forced in a position to have to keep him. The likelihood of that happening, not very much, though. Ravens, by the way, co-favorites with the Bills, 5-1 to win the AFC, tied for third on the board to win a Super Bowl, plus 950, minus 140 to win the AFC North. We'll talk more about the Colts and that Daniel Jones deal a little bit later, but coming up next, Dr. David Chao on the program to break down all this injury stuff.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. It's March, which means the madness is officially upon us, and the folks at VSiN have really gone crazy with this one. I'm being told that for just $29.99, you can get unlimited access to VSiN Pro through May 1st. I'm talking picks through the tournament, public betting data for every single game, plus sharp tools, projections, articles, and more. But here's the thing. There's already a ton up on the site for Champ Week, which means every day you wait is an opportunity missed. Just click the link in the description to get started. It's March, baby. All right, now back to the show.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, we've got a couple games here, conference tournament action that have gone final while we were in the break. Iowa does end up covering that 12.5 late against Maryland, 75-60. They do not cover 75-64 the final there in the Big Ten tournament. And then NC State Pitt goes final as well. NC State covers by the hook, barely 98-88, covering the 9.5. Total goes way over. We'll continue to keep tabs on all of this action as we go here on Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. But as we were talking about last segment, the big news of the day, of course, coming in the NFL with the Baltimore Ravens backing out of the deal with Max Crosby due to medical reasons and not passing the physical. Nobody better to help us break it all down than Dr. David Chao, who joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, former NFL head team doctor, sports injury Central. You can follow him on X as well, at Pro Football Doc. And what we were talking about was how, of course, with all of these teams, we know the physicals are very subjective. But when the Ravens do this deal, they know that Max Crosby is just coming off of the meniscus surgery. So can you kind of help us make sense of everything that's gone down in the last 24 hours?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. And I'm between surgeries here, so it's a good time. Here's the thing. On Monday on my podcast, I said, I don't see Max Crosby passing a physical today because he's only 2 months from his meniscus repair. Ahead of that, I said that might have been why the trade market was slow. I know Mike Silver was saying he's going to be traded. He's going to be traded any minute. I was like, well, this may be a complicating factor. On Monday, I said, I don't see him passing a physical to play today. The Ravens would have to pass him on a physical, projecting him to be healthy. My assumption is they probably did that homework, right? And projected the meniscus repair to be healthy. But look, the higher the price, the more the scrutiny, if that makes sense. And because of the high price tag, including the first round draft picks, they wanted a healthy player, not just for today. Okay, not today, but for this coming season, which they probably could project. but for how long going into the future may have been the question. Look, there was indications from Adam Schefter about future aspects of the assessment. In other words, was there some degeneration or wear and tear going on in his knee? And is that what gave the Ravens cold feet? And yes, I get it. If you see Trey Hendrickson's price dropping, do you want a Trey Hendrickson at a similar or less value and no first round draft picks instead? I get that comes into play. But to explain for your audience, and I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, when you buy or sell a home, you agree on a contract price, $500,000, 2 first-round draft picks, whatever the case may be, but that's opening escrow when you agree. You have to close escrow, and before the trade becomes final, before the escrow is closed on the home purchase, you have to pass an inspection on the home, and you get 10 or 14 days or whatever it is in your escrow to pass inspection. The house doesn't have to be falling down to fall out of escrow. The roof doesn't have to leak to fall out of escrow. If the roof is more worn than perhaps the buyer wanted, that is a reason to fall out of escrow or demand a lower cost in escrow. And simply, Max Crosby fell out of escrow, so to speak, based on what the Ravens subsequently found or additional testing. Is there a smidge of buyer's remorse in there? Maybe, but it has to be done on a medical basis. You can't not like the color of the house. You can reject the home based on the paint peeling.
And JVT, just like real estate agents get really upset when a house falls out of escrow, I'm sure that Max Crosby's agent not as pleased either with how this has transpired.
Well, the Raiders aren't pleased here, right? And why are the Raiders pleased? Because in order to enter escrow, you had to take your home off the market. And guess what? You have a 6-bedroom home that's made for families, and it's now September and school has already started. Where's the marketplace now for your home?
So I'm curious, with this sort of a process, and speaking to a doctor, this would make some sense. Is there a difference in the way a doctor would view the injury from team to team? Because it would seem that if you know about the injury, you know about the procedure, the recovery would generally be the same, and that all doctors would have the same general opinion. What would be the difference in what a team sees with his injury?
Well, I've said this before, that a team doctor to team doctor, medicine is an art of medicine, especially if you're projecting into the future, whether meniscus repair, healing, or degenerative knee, or whatever the situation may be. It's like projecting a draft pick, what's going to happen in the future. Not all GMs agree on who's a first round or second round draft pick. It's no different, since we're on VSiN here, of one handicapper versus the other in terms of who's going to win the Final Four, who's going to be in the Final Four there. There is some subjectivity to it. There is some objectivity. We know Michigan, Duke are among the better teams, but not everyone is going to agree on who is the best odds and the best play, so to speak. And so there is subjectivity involved. With that being said, the Raiders and the Max Crosby team has essentially admitted he doesn't pass the physical today because they put out the doctor's statement saying his rehab is progressing ahead of schedule, meaning he doesn't pass today. And they're saying they could have projected him to be fine. So, it's a complicated topic. It's a bad look. The Ravens are going to get a lot of grief for this. The Raiders hate this. The rest of the league are going to side-eye the Ravens for this. But there will be no punitive action or league investigation from Roger Goodell on this. The Ravens are within their right to do what they did. And I find it interesting that they even involved apparently the Cowboys team doctor, who was a team who was originally in on the trade or acquisition or one of the bidders or suitors for Max Crosby. And the irony of our ironies, I'll give you two more, is they've now signed Trey Hendrickson, who he himself is coming off season-ending surgery. I don't anticipate a problem with his physical, but he is coming off surgery just like Max Crosby is. And the final irony of all ironies is the Raiders themselves in 2014 failed Roger Saffold. I get it wasn't a trade, but it was a free agent physical. They agreed to a free agent contract early in free agency period. When it came to the physical 2 days later, failed him for his shoulder, and he went back, and the St. Louis Rams accepted his shoulder, admittedly at a reduced contract, but the Raiders have done it too in different fashion. this whole trade and 2 first-round picks and Max Crosby and the trade reverting is unprecedented. But physicals, fouling deals have happened before.
Dr. David Chao joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line. You mentioned Trey Hendrickson. The Colts were reportedly in the market for Hendrickson as well. They now end up having to pivot, but they too did get a deal done today, signing Daniel Jones to a 2-year, $88 million deal worth up to $100 million. But he's coming off a very serious Achilles injury, and all of the reports we're seeing is that he's expected to be ready for week 1 of the NFL season, if not as soon as training camp. Are you buying it coming off of an injury of that significance?
Well, when he tore his Achilles, that's when, the whole Phillip Rivers thing started, and I was texting Phillip Rivers, et cetera. But the other fallout from that was that this meant to me that Daniel Jones would return to the Colts. Why? No new team is going to give Daniel Jones a big contract when they know he can't be there in the offseason and participate in new offense installs. Returning to your same team is different because he already operated that offense well. And that gave the Colts always the leg up on re-signing Daniel Jones. And now that's happened. The irony here again is technically he doesn't pass a physical today because his Achilles isn't ready. But the Colts are going to waive that and bypass that and say, yes, we're good. We'll accept all risk, because they already know what's happening on the front end of that. So there's just a lot of levels to all of these different conversations. As far as when he can be ready, the difference is Daniel Jones, and I say this in the kindest of ways, week 1 in the NFL will be ready. He may not be 100%. Could he do something in training camp? Yeah, maybe. But in training camp and week 1, I will guarantee you this, he may not be 100%, but he'll be more mobile than the guy that replaced him, Phillip Rivers. And I say that in the kindest of ways as my friend, Phillip Rivers. He's not the most mobile guy in the world. Daniel Jones may not be himself or 100% week 1 in the NFL, but he'll be more mobile than the old number 17 that we saw out there.
Doc, I think the 3 of us might be more mobile. Appreciate your time with us today.
You guys, maybe me not.
Thank you so much, though, for squeezing us in between surgeries. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Dr. David Chao, everybody.
Ask him what's on the menu?
What?
I mean, what kind of a procedure are we talking about here? Are we in between?
Oh, man, I didn't think that through. Yeah. That would have been cool.
Or is that a HIPAA thing? I guess he can't tell specifically who it is, but he can tell us what he's got to do.
Dang. Yeah, man, I'm so mad. Opportunity missed.
Can't imagine
what a life.
Like, I worked, you work 2 jobs, I work 2 jobs. After this, I'm going to go to do local, right? So I'll just, I'll rattle off some shows here and there. Can't imagine, slicing somebody up and then, just real quick, I'll just do something. And then
yeah, we literally say about our job, it's not surgery.
Yeah.
So there we go. Dr. David Chao, appreciate his time. When we come back, 2 games in college hoops about to tip off. Plus, we'll tell you why we should be calling Team USA skipper Mark DeRosa a mismanager after what transpired yesterday. Stick around.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're rocking and rolling here. This segment of Money Moves sponsored by Upside. Download the free Upside app today and earn real cash back every time you fill up your gas tank. Plus, use promo code SPORTS when you download the app. That'll get you 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank as well. Stormy, Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you back here live in downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. For inquiring minds, following our conversation with Dr. David Chao, he did let us know.
Do I have to say?
He said he could say.
Oh, okay.
Sandwiched in between a shoulder rotator cuff surgery and a knee scope. So look at that, making time for us today. Just does the little lowly exercises talk to us. You could tell he was in between. He still had the mask on his neck.
I thought he was doing that on purpose, and then he told us. I thought because then he told us he had surgery. I thought he was really playing up the bit, which I would have appreciated. Something I probably would have done, but yeah.
So you're saying next, if we play up the bit, next time we go talk to somebody, we should have a microphone in hand.
Yes, correct. Something
That's how we would do it. All right, interesting.
Just to confirm, he was a doctor.
Some score updates for you here. Man, this is a drubbing for Iowa State against Arizona State right now. Up 83-40. Still about 4 minutes to go here. I love that you can still get live lines on these things. Iowa State laying 37.5 7.5 on the live line. LSU and Kentucky up 81-75. Bethune-Cookman and Prairie View tied at 16 here midway through the first half, and Richmond up on Loyola Chicago 27-22. We do have 2 games tipping off in a matter of minutes, both coincidentally with a team involved that's down its top scorer. Louisville will be without Mikael Brown against SMU. USC without Chad Baker-Mazura against Washington as well. As we know, he was dismissed from the team about, a week and a half ago now. Either of those games catch your attention this morning?
Let's see. No, I don't. We wanted to preview them for sure, but there was nothing really that stuck out in a big way about some of the lines in the early games. A little focused. I know we'll talk about them a little bit later, but some of the late games. And we talked about the UNLV spot coming up at 12. Yeah. That was only one that really stuck out to me. I
kind of lean SMU as this thing is about to tip off, getting 6.5 points, total 164.5. I do feel like without Brown, that changes things for a Louisville team that's been pretty inconsistent this year as well. He's going to be out for the entire tournament. Questions about his availability for the NCAA tournament as well. Average 18.2 points per game, nearly 5 assists, 3.5 rebounds. Yeah. He's a very important piece of what they try to do. So I did have a lean toward SMU in that game that's about to tip off. Nothing here in this USC-Washington game other than I just find it fascinating that Baker-Mazura gets dismissed again.
Yeah, all of that.
And the line movement is actually really interesting here, too. I don't know if you saw this. Washington opened a 5.5 point favorite, but USC is getting played despite being on this 7-game losing streak, entering the tournament and losing their top scorer.
Yeah, that is something. I mean, I will say if you like some of the projection stuff, the market at the open was not really in line with some of the projections. The original number for Ken Palm, for example, was a 3-point, and we're kind of in that range now.
3.5 right now.
So I think maybe that was part of it. Maybe some of the correction of like, hey, look, this doesn't look right. Some of the places that we respect in terms of projections has this as a little bit of a tighter number. We should bet this thing down. So we will see if that comes to fruition. Interestingly enough, you talk about the changes here. Bartorvik has this as about a 2-point spread. So the market was really off from some of the more popular projections, and at times I think you will see that move reflect what you see in some of these projection systems, and that's what we're seeing here.
Okay, let's talk a little baseball because we had chaos in the World Baseball Classic yesterday as Team USA falls to Italy in what was one of the biggest upsets in the 20-year history of the event. And USA was down big there, 8-0 for a while. They did claw their way back late, still end up losing this thing 8-6. And Team USA manager Mark DeRosa had no idea that his team going into that game actually needed the win and had not yet clinched a spot in the quarterfinal. Here is him before the game on MLB Network.
You got 9 bodies ready to roll today, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to get some guys off their feet, no question about it. I'd like to get Goldie a start, and he has been awesome, just a leader of men behind the scenes with Aaron Judge. I'd like to get him in there. I'd like to get Gunnar in there again. Ton of respect for Italy. It's weird. We want to win. We want to win this game, even though our tickets punched to the quarterfinals, because Mexico plays Italy actually tomorrow. So the way the schedule lines up, this is an important game for us. Nolan McLean will start. He's on the bump, and he's good to go. He's an absolute beast, and I expect him to throw the heck out of him.
I mean, you even just laughed.
I mean, that's bad. So he clearly, then, as you mentioned, that's the important part about this timeline. That is before the game. Now, there's a lot of different things here. The first of which is nobody on the interview tries to correct them as to what's happening. Maybe they didn't hear him. Maybe it was a quick out, whatever it was. But
so that was my big thing, because all I've heard is that clip. Like, I haven't seen the full show and what the response was after that. But my first reaction was nobody caught that. Yep. Like, nobody corrected him that they haven't cemented their spot in the quarters?
Yep. So then you go on and you realize as the game goes along, he doesn't really know what's happening. He mentioned, you hear him start talk about Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt hasn't really been hitting particularly well against righties, and then he faces Michael Lorenzen to start the game, and he doesn't hit particularly well there. The fact that he was warming up Clayton Kershaw before he decides to send out Mason Miller at the last second because somebody at some point told him, dude, you've got to win this game. What are we doing here? Clearly. And then if I could, I'll set this. Then afterwards, he's asked about, hey, before, you said you didn't know it. And after the game, he says this.
Yeah, I misspoke. I was on hot stove with a couple buddies today and completely misread the calculations. We knew that Mexico was going to play Italy and then running all the numbers with if we lost tonight with the runs allowed and runs scored and outs. So I just misspoke.
But so that's not a misspeaking.
No.
He said two different things there.
Yeah, misspeaking is just accidentally saying it. Your actions said that you believed it as well with the way that you managed this game. It's incredible. So now they're in position. Look, if you look at, like, there's a bunch of great fancy grids out there in terms of the results. A small quadrant of them have the USA maybe being eliminated. Still, it's a scenario that can happen, but it's just about the mismanagement. That is your job as a manager, to understand all of the outcomes, what you need to do to win the event that you're here for, and the fact that the system broke down to the point where nobody could correct him.
Yeah.
And I'll be quite honest, I question, look, I like MLB Central on MLB Network. It's a very good show. Why is Mark DeRosa qualified to run the Team USA World Baseball Classic team as a manager? Seriously, usually you look at guys, and I get it, spring training's underway, you can't use active managers, whatever it is, if you don't want to. Okay, but there's a lot of other managers that are either fired or not working right now that you could probably use. This is not a good look for them in any way, shape, or form.
And so with that, we go to the Italy-Mexico game today, where we have seen a bunch of movement here on this one. Mexico was a minus 330 favorite on the money line, down to minus 215. Run total down from 8 to 7.5. Here's how USA can still get in. Italy either wins the game and the score just won't matter. Mexico wins without allowing Italy to score more than 5, or if Mexico wins but scores 4 or less runs, the U.S. is out. So, that's, I think, the cleanest way to put it. You mentioned the chart. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at it and how this can play out, but that is the cleanest, because should Mexico win, there's a 3-team tiebreaker between Mexico, the U.S., and Italy, and the way that it shakes out is based on runs allowed per out recorded. And so that's why those 6 runs late yesterday ended up being so freaking important that they at least were able to add up in the run differential part of this thing.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's just wild.
Yeah, the tiebreaker situation is weird, but it's comical that you watch that happen on such a big stage and realize that they didn't really have any idea how those. And by the way, Mark DeRosa is not the only person in professional sports that has messed these things up. We have seen time and again. There was the Donovan McNabb where he didn't realize the game could end in a tie afterwards when he was interviewed by it. I think Ron Rivera had a moment at one point where he was confused as to they were eliminated at one point, because I think it was when he was coaching Washington, because he didn't understand what the tiebreakers were or something. So this happens a lot.
LeBron and what's his face? Like the picture.
J.R. Smith.
Yeah,
J.R. Smith didn't know the game situation.
Yes.
That
picture of LeBron, though, going like this will forever be stuck in my brain.
Slightly more acceptable. I say very slightly, because you're just in the heat of the moment type of a deal. But the fact that this dragged out for so long, from the interview to the pretty much end of the game, before your actions started to reflect that of a team that actually needed a victory, was.
I think you put it so well, though, the fact that no one at any point stepped in until he's warming up Clayton Kershaw in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
It was wild. And there was also, I think, you mentioned this, he made the comments too, they beat Mexico, they were out celebrating and whatnot. He mentioned that a couple of guys were dragging. And by the way, they did not play well defensively in that game either.
But it's not like they were out at a club partying. They were like bonding with each other in the clubhouse.
No,
until 12:30 for a game that started at what time? Like 8 the next day?
No, but I think it's not that incident by itself. It's the accumulation of everything.
Sure.
Isn't it? It's the fact that that happens. They're celebrating after the Mexico win.
An excuse,
no,
personally.
I think it's the sum of all the parts. It's the fact that you beat Mexico, you're celebrating like you're in, you absolutely think that you're in, your actions say that, and then at the end you realize, oh no, we didn't. That is bad management, I think, all the way around. And that I think is part of the problem.
Reminder, everybody, every time you fill up your gas tank right now, you could be earning real cash back, but only if you have the free Upside app. Download Upside today from the App Store or Google Play Store and claim an offer at a nearby gas station. Start earning instantly, and when you use the promo code SPORTS, you get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on that first fill up. You got to check it out. Drivers are earning $200 to $300 a year just from their usual commute. It's simple. It's fast. You can cash out anytime directly to your bank account or an e-gift card like Amazon or other places. Download the free Upside app now. Promo code SPORTS for that 25-cent per gallon bonus. Offers vary by user and location. See upside.com for details. Okay, when we come back, we're going to continue to keep tabs on all of the college hoops tournament action that's going on right now, in a preview of the West Coast, Best Coast, Mountain West Coast bias conversation coming up next. The first of 4 games today getting underway, top of the hour. We will preview it all coming up after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Founded in 2011, the Sharp Plays just completed another dominant run, including a 2025 campaign that saw bankrolls double. That's 15 straight years of winning, and it's all documented. Records and logs posted publicly at sharpplays.com for full performance auditing, something that separates the Sharp Plays from most of the betting industry. With the Sharp Plays move, sportsbooks take notice. Advanced AI tools, trusted insider intelligence, identifying price value before the numbers shift, respected, watched, feared. Start winning with them at sharpplays.com.
Stormy and JVT, breaking down the coast that matters. This is West Coast Bias.
Yeah, we are. Let's get into it. And we have a special edition. Not only is this West Coast Bias, it's Mountain West Coast Bias, because the Mountain West tournament set to tip off here in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack in about 15 minutes. UNLV and Wyoming going head-to-head in the first of 4 games today. Winners advance to the quarterfinals tomorrow, and so on. Utah State, your top seed and favorite in all, plus 220 to win the tournament. San Diego State Aztecs, plus 330. Grand Canyon, plus 475. Boise State, plus 550. UNM, plus 650. Boise State does have to play today, though. The other teams I mentioned all have a bye to tomorrow. But let's start with UNLV and Wyoming here off the top. 2.5-point spread in favor of the hometown Rebels. Although, don't get all up in arms like everybody else in the league does, getting mad about UNLV playing on their home court. It's a different court that the league brings in, okay? A 2.5-point spread, though, total 153.5. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd also say that nobody goes out to support the team, so that's also like another thing that does matter. I'm going to be interested here. So Wyoming comes in playing some pretty good basketball. Pretty much the league has been flipped on its head. It's some of the bottom-tier teams, the bottom-seeded teams that are playing their best, and the top teams that all receive buys are really not playing well at all. So Wyoming, having won 5 out of their last 6 games, heads into this game, and some strong wins. They beat Grand Canyon on the road. They beat Nevada at home amongst those. And they've got some pretty solid pelts on the wall throughout conference play, some of them being Colorado State and UNLV both playing at home in Laramie. That is the one that obviously matters. UNLV went out there after they played Air Force. This was back at the beginning of January, and they got housed, 98-66. Wasn't even really close. But I would say that over the last few games, UNLV has very clearly been playing a little bit better. That was at the beginning of conference play. They were a little dinged up. They also had some rough scheduling spots. I mean, Air Force at home, but then Wyoming and Colorado State as part of a road trip. This team has gotten better. Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn has gotten better, and this offense has gotten better. In conference play, the best three-point shooting team in the Mountain West at 39% from beyond the arc. They don't take a ton. They do have to work on some things with their defense. They're one of the worst defensive teams, and they are the worst fouling team in the Mountain West right now. So, too, is Wyoming. So that's going to be something. They're 11th, and UNLV is 12th. I think that we're maybe playing a little too much into the first matchup. It's tough to go up there and play in Laramie when you're talking about the environment, the inherent home court advantage of the thin air over 7,000 feet?
7220, baby.
7220.
They legitimately have it like written on everything there.
It's the old Tarkanian story when he was asked back in the day about is there any concerns about playing up there in the high elevation, and he said no because we're playing indoors. So either way, I think it's going to be a little different here playing at home. I know that they're playing at a pretty good clip right now, Wyoming, but I've watched this UNLV team up close, and I think 2.5 seems somewhat short for the way that they've been handling their business. I mean, even look against your team on Friday. Yeah. That is a very clear and obvious letdown. You're here at the Thomas and Mack in Las Vegas. You beat the absolute dog bleep out of Utah State. Now you're going to go on the road against San Diego State thinking that you're, as a 10.5-point dog, not going to have any shot. And they're in that game the whole time, end up losing by failing, or excuse me, by cover. I do think this is a little short. Some of the projections, again, we're kind of seeing these. This open 3.5. Some have it at like 1 in favor of UNLV, so we're seeing that knocked down. But I'd be willing to lay 2.5, and I did here with UNLV. Let's go.
I was about to say, you know what? I'm down for a live sweat. I'm going to throw this into the account here real quickly since we're going to be watching it anyways. And yeah, to your point, that game against San Diego State, it was a big spread. End up losing just by 3 in that game, so a cover for that. 3 straight covers to end the regular season for their last 5, which included obviously that big upset against Utah State. So they seem to be playing well. Let's keep it rolling in their home building against Wyoming, even though they won't have any fans at the game. What about the next game in that early portion of the bracket? Air Force and Nevada coming up a little bit later. Massive spread. Actually, real quickly before I do that. UNLV 45-1. To win the tournament. You said earlier, even though like this was significantly longer, people have been putting money on them because of how they've played lately. Worth a flyer? Do you think they can contend? Can it be like, you know how this is, like a team can just get hot for the tournament, that kind of thing?
Well, they can get hot for the tournament, and I think if you're really kind of buying into it, if you're trying to at least follow that thread, the other part of it is not only that they've been playing better and they're playing at home, but UNLV does get Utah State in the quarterfinals should they win this game. They've obviously swept Utah State. They've won by margin in the 2 games. So UNLV, I think, is a very good team to potentially make a run if we really believe in the matchups that have worked in their favor against that Aggies team. So I think I can understand why you would take a flyer. Then you get to the other side, which is, the other side of this bracket that they're in, their half, is Grand Canyon, Nevada, and Air Force. Obviously, UNLV has wins over both Grand Canyon and Nevada, so it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to watch them beat Wyoming, beat a Utah State team they already have 2 wins over, and then beat one of the 2 teams that they already have a split with in Nevada and Grand Canyon. So I get it to an extent, but they're not consistent enough on defense. If you look at, I think it's like havoc rate or whatever it is, some of those things, consistency. If you look at the way that the results have come in, they're at the very bottom of the country because they've been all over the place.
Okay, so that Air Force Nevada game, 20.5 point spread in favor of the Wolfpack, total 141.5 against an Air Force team that just has been brutal all season. They're a 3-win team entering the tournament. We also, after that, have Fresno State, Colorado State, the Rams laying 7.5. And in the nightcap, Boise State laying 14.5 against San Jose State.
Yeah, I think you can make an argument, too. There's a lot of teams you can make an argument for. I was on with Matt and Will Hill yesterday, Matt Humans, and there's so many teams you could look at to win this conference tournament, which I think makes it one of the more interesting ones, because you could look at Boise State, for example, who's won 5 straight coming into this and 7 out of their last 9, and say, hey, man, like this Boise State team's playing really well at this point. Maybe they can go ahead and get this done in this tournament. San Jose State, the team that they're playing here, absolutely blasted them when they were at home back on February 21st, 84-69. This is a group that has gotten much better. If you remember, Boise at the beginning of conference play had actually started 1-5, including a UNLV loss here at the Thomas Mack in the overtime, but then really went on this run that they're on to end the season 12-8 in conference play. I think that you can look at 14.5 and feel relatively comfortable that they're going to be able to potentially get it done. I will say this, though. Tim Miles is a good coach. San Jose State can be effective. They do play pretty slow, so maybe slowing this down and keeping it in. Also don't turn the ball over, and they shoot the ball relatively well from a percentage standpoint. Maybe that's going to be enough to keep you in this. I would like them to shoot more threes, so maybe they ratchet up that variance here. So if they're going to play slow, shoot some threes and shoot them well, you could get that done. But no interior presence really at all. So just hold on to the ball, shoot the ball well. You can stay inside what seems to be a somewhat inflated number. You
want to remind people real quickly why you ended up placing the flyer on Colorado State 25-1?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's the way they're playing. They had won 8 straight before they no-showed against Boise State over the weekend. So that's something worth pointing out. And they will have to go through maybe Boise State on their way to the final. They'll also have to go through your team, San Diego State, if they get it done. They'll also have to beat Fresno State today, if that's going to be the case. But they're playing really well. Ali Farokhmanesh has been great in getting this team to be better. Their offensive efficiency has climbed in conference play. They're a team that is just improving. And I think in a Mountain West, again, where I would take, so let me see, 1, 2, 3. If I took the top 8 teams and threw them all in a hat and pulled one out and said, here's your winner, I don't think anybody would really be shocked. So if you're going to take a shot, find somewhere that you can. And for Colorado State to take on a Fresno State team that I think they can dispatch, and on the other side of that, if they advance, take on your team, which did go up there and lose, 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Has not been playing particularly well. I have to do it, and then get into the semifinals.
Just absolute kick out of the bubble. That was fun.
I mean, your team's probably going to go on to win this whole thing.
Well, we need to now, unfortunately, which I honestly don't know if they're capable of it. We'll see. We're going to go to a handful of the games, so that'll be fun.
Handful?
Are you? Well,
every single one.
You're headed over today.
Correct.
I am not going today because I think these games
you're not a real fan.
Are not my. I have other things to do today, but
like
tomorrow.
What? Clean your other bathroom?
Well, I was very distracted when I did it yesterday. I'm not done yet.
I have
so much laundry to do. It's disgusting.
Why can't Chris do it?
Also, we do have a final, Kentucky LSU, 87-82. So Kentucky wins, does not cover as a 9.5-point favorite, though. We do have 2 more games, though, set to get underway since we are coming off the SEC score. Mississippi State, Auburn also going head-to-head here, top of the hour, 12:05 Pacific time tip. 8.5 in favor of the Auburn Tigers, total 159.5. What is going to happen with Auburn? We'll see.
I mean, that's like the game of the day, I think, to focus on. Seriously, I mean, like
I was going to say the other one that's tipping off Cincinnati UCF, Cincinnati laying 3.5.
Yeah, Auburn for a stretch was a awful cover team as well, and still are coming into this. Market expectation is way too high, and yet here they are, and they're an 8.5-point favorite against Mississippi State. Totals 159.5. I don't know, man. Seems a little rich given the way that this team has been playing, especially on defense. They're the worst defensive team in the SEC, and I get it. Mississippi State's offense has not been great, but holy smokes, do you really trust Auburn after how much they've been letting you down time and time again? I mean, look at these 2 ATS records. It's abysmal. What are we going to do here?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What you do here is do not bet it. Like, it's okay. Like, this is something that I think is very important for our audience and anyone betting out there. Just because there are a ton of games doesn't mean you have to bet them all. It is just fine to sit back and watch this chaos ensue.
Very true. They better not be in. I
don't think they should. 8.5, the number once again.
Think they should. Will they? Or is another question entirely?
Very accurate. Total 159.5. Okay, we're going to step aside here real quickly. When we come back, breaking down a 6-game card in the NBA to kick off the hour, and our thoughts on the performance from Bam Adebayo last night, 83. What do we think about how it went down, and what do these other NBA coaches think about it? We'll be right back.